Hey guys, Ace Maven here, Vox Machina tutorial on piloting the Hopper. So the Hopper is a pretty light mech. It's got these two slashy arms, we call them, even though they don't slash yet, hopefully soon. And then it has one small weapon mount on the right and two small weapon mounts on the left. A couple things about the Hopper. Like its name implies, it does a lot of, it can hop very well. It can also is, like the Gold Rush, a very effective rammer, believe it or not, because if you ram something with those two pokey elbows, it can do a tremendous amount of damage. Typically, players will put the same weapons on both sides. So in this case, it has all missiles. And I have the right missiles, which is one group, tied to one trigger, and then my left is tied to my left trigger. So like I mentioned, I've got both weapons on the left tied to one trigger, and both weapons on the right tied to the other trigger. This kind of allows you to, shoot past there if I want to, without... If they were all bound on the same button, I would be shooting half of them into there and wasting heat. Two things about the Hopper. A couple things about the Hopper. First, fuel and heat, or heat and fuel. So heat's not bad actually. Heat dissipates pretty quickly. So here I'll just sort of build up some heat and let it fall. So you see it creeps down pretty quickly. So between the small weapons not really producing a whole lot of heat and the fact that it cools off quickly, you can sustain a rate of fire pretty well. It also refuels fairly quickly as well. I'm not going to use my pump here, but I can use my thermal pump if I wanted that to recharge faster. But you can see that actually goes up pretty quick, and I'm still pretty airborne. So actually fuel and heat both recharge or whatever pretty quickly in a Hopper, so you can get some decent air time and also sustain fire quite a bit. Pretty conventional loadout for this are the missiles. They can be extremely damaging, especially if you can unload all of them into a target. They can really cause a lot of pain. Other loadouts are fun. I mean, a Minigun Hopper is just loads of fun, honestly, although it doesn't do a whole lot of damage. I've been playing around with Laser Hopper, but that's a very tricky one to master. And Cannon Hoppers, I think, serve a role, but for the damage output that they produce, it's hard to sort of argue with an all-missile Hopper. Alright, so now I'll demonstrate the ramming of the Hopper. So with the ramming, you want to hit with your two elbows there, or your elbow, one of them at least. So it's a little different than the Gold Rush, where you had the cow catcher kind of beneath you and you're flying forward, and you want to try to connect with the ram. So with this one, you want your elbows to connect. So I'm going to dive in here. I'm kind of going into the enemy swarm, but I see this rook here. Normally wouldn't do this. And what I'm going to do is I'll show you. I'm going to keep my reticle trained right on him. And you're going to watch. If you noticed, it was hard to see, but if you keep your reticle on the target, your elbows will actually come together where your reticle is. So your elbows will actually aim toward the target. We're going to blow my target. Will aim toward the target. Both your elbows will come together on your reticle wherever you train it. So let me... Now another way of ramming with the Hopper is more with a single arm or a single elbow. And so that can be done by slightly turning when you engage your target. So instead of keeping your reticle on him, that one hit with the left arm, you can hit with one arm. I like to do that in more specific situations. If I have like a head-on ram I will just keep my reticle trained on it and both my elbows will come together. I find that it does a lot of damage. I'll get the kill, but it will also protect my torso more. I'll use the single arm ram if someone is at an angle, or if, for example, they're trying to ram me. I might try to sort of get like a jab in with one of my elbows in order to counteract that. But otherwise, I'll typically go for the straight on ram, which again, I'll do it with this rock, and you'll see both my elbows come together at the last second. There, you see, there they are. So that's what's happening when you're keeping your reticle trained on them and ramming like that. So now let me show you the main aspect of the hopper, which is to hop. So in order to hop with a hopper, it's just like it sounds. You want to give it some vertical jets, for example, but you don't want to just lay in the jets. Notice how I'm taking my hand off the jets, and I'm using my upward momentum to just carry me up. Okay, so you can get some pretty good height with this. And you can basically then, hit your target. Now here's the important thing. When you come down, you're going to feel a little bounce. Now watch, I'm going to bounce. Bounce and come up. And you can use that to your advantage. So the hopper knees are very springy. So you'll see I'm going to hit the ground and the hopper will automatically just sort of spring back up, and I want to use that momentum here to launch again, okay? So you want to use that momentum. That momentum is very important when you hit the ground. And then if you do run a pump, you can basically almost refuel completely before you even hit the ground again. And watch, the knees will bounce, spring. That was a small one because it was on a hill. And up I go again. So in this way, you can keep a hopper bouncing around, pretty indefinitely, and it's really one of their strong suits. So you can kind of like fly over enemies and bounce, escape. And basically just keep hopping around and causing all sorts of havoc. Keep an eye on your radar, because make sure you're not hopping into a hornet's nest, because once you get hopping, it's easy to kind of lose track of where you are. For example, you see I sort of landed in the midst of all these enemies, so you got to kind of keep an eye on your radar too when you're hopping around, so that you're not like, oh, I'm hopping over this enemy and shooting him, and then you're just landing into all of his buddies. Alright, so that's the hopper.